Alright, so the first thing we're going to look at is vowels. And in Spanish, as you know, there are 5 vowel sounds. A, I, E, O, and U. But in Latin, it's different. There are actually 9 different vowel sounds, and it's closer to what we know in English. And the vowel sounds are, I'm going to have to cheat, A, I, and there's also A, O, and U. So that's a lot of vowels. And now, before I get into it, I have to explain that this little sign above any vowel makes it a short sounding vowel. So if this is above the I here, it's I. But this, the line above the vowel, means that it's a long vowel sound. So if it's over an I, then it's an E. So this is I, this is E. And now when you see these slashes around a letter, that means you're just looking at the sound of the letter. So when you see the slashes around the E, it's not talking about the letter E, it's talking about the sound this letter makes. So, alright, so when you see these Latin vowels in a word, they're going to change to Spanish vowels. Now, these on the outside, these 5 vowels are the Spanish vowels, the sounds of the Spanish vowels. So in a Latin word, when you see the letter A, it always stays the same. However, in a Latin word that has the sound E, A, or I, that vowel is going to change to the sound A in Spanish. And same goes for up here when you see a Latin I with the dash over it, which means it sounds like E, it's going to change to the Spanish I, which always sounds like E. For here, in Latin, the sound all, O, and will all change to the Spanish O. And in Latin, the sound U will change to the Spanish U. And we are going to take a look at some conjugating. We're going to conjugate verbs next and show you how that works. So every Spanish verb ends in R, but every Latin verb ends in E. So for instance, the Spanish verb sacar, in Latin it would actually be sacare with an E at the end. So just keep that in mind for what we're going to do next. So in Spanish, the verb curar should all look familiar to you. And it's conjugated like this: curo, or curo, curas, cura, curamus, curais, curan, yo, tú, él, ella, usted, nos, os, ellas, ellos, ustedes. And that should all look familiar. In Latin, it looks very similar. And I'm going to show you how it differs. In Latin, it's curo, curas, curat, curamos, curatis, and curant. So you can see that there's the addition of the T here, here, and here. And instead of an M-O-S, it's an M-U-S. So basically what happened, when Spanish came around, the T's at the ends of the conjugated verbs just kind of went away. So you take that away, and you take that away. And because this T is in between 2 vowels, that also goes away. And now you might be wondering, well, why is that U there? But what I just taught you is that, where is it? This U in Latin is the sound, curamus. So it has to change to an O, making it curamos. And that should look exactly like the Spanish conjugation. There's another way that this whole vowel chart is really helpful. Now, when you see in Latin, when you see 2 vowels together, such as A, U, you can use this chart to help you. So if, like I said, when you say A and U, you see the A and a U. And what falls between them is the O. So when you see an A and a U in Latin, in Spanish it's going to change to an O. Just like if you say an A and an I together in Latin, A and an I, it's going to change to an E. Now I'm going to show you an example. In Latin, we also have preterite tenses, and I'm going to use the verb curare, or curar in Spanish, again. So the Latin preterite tense for I cured is curavi, because the V's are pronounced like W's. Now, the Spanish preterite is cure, and how did we get from one to the other? I'm going to show you. So, like I said previously, when you have a T in between two vowels, you take away the T. Now, it's the same thing goes for V's. Because this V is in between an A and an I, or any two vowels, it goes away. So this becomes curai or something, with the A and the I next to each other. But that doesn't make any sense. And like I just said, when you see two vowels together in Latin, an A and an I, they meet in the middle to make the E. So this cancels out to cure, and that is where you get the Spanish preterite cure, I cured. Okay, so now that you understand the whole way that the verbs change, like I just showed you, let's have fun with it. I'm going to take the verb servire in Latin and servir in Spanish and show you how they change. The Latin preterite is servivi, servivi, and the Spanish preterite is servi. Now, like I said, the V is in between two vowels, so that cancels out to make this. But that doesn't make sense, and because they're two of the same vowel together, you just take one off, and there you go. You got the servi. Now let's do another verb. This one's really interesting. Audire in Latin means to hear, and oír in Spanish is to hear. The Latin preterite for audire is audivi, I heard, and the Spanish I heard is oí. And again, they don't look similar at all, but because you have the AU here, the A and the U change to an O. So then you get odiwi. But because the V is in between two vowels, that comes out to OD. And like I said, they're two of the same vowel, so one cancels out to get OD. So the same thing actually happens with these as it does with T's and V's. Because the D is in between two vowels, it goes away as well. And you get OE. Alright, so I'm going to take the verb videre, with a V, videre, in Latin, and show you how it becomes there in Spanish, V-E-R, to see. Alright, so this is how you conjugate videre in Latin. Video, vides, videt, videmos, videtis, vident. So let's work with the I's first. As we know, an I sound in Latin changes to an E sound in Spanish, an E. So we're going to take away all of the I's and change them to E's. The next thing we're going to do, like I said, all of the T's dropped off the ends of the words in Latin. So we're just going to take away that T and that T. Now let's work with the consonants. So, like we did before, we're going to take out this T because it's in between two vowels. So that gives us Wedais. Now, you're probably wondering what we do now with all the Ds. Well, like I said, whenever a D is in between two vowels, that also goes away. So basically, we're just going to erase all of the Ds. So all the Ds are gone. And like I said before, when you have two of the same vowel together, one of them just goes away. So this E is going to go away. And what we're left with should look extremely familiar as Spanish.